Yeah, real quick, you're 18? 17? 17, senior in high school.
Yeah.
You play football, defensive end typically?
They've been moving me around. Defensive end, yeah.
Linebacker?
QB. Second string QB. Hey, I was working on, might have to go off topic. I threw to an Olympic athlete. This girl I met at Round Rock Stadium. She was going to the Olympics for flag football. And I'll have to show y'all her Instagram after. She's legit. She head topped this girl 4 times in a row in the same Olympic game and got a gold medal. And that girl, who she head topped 4 times in a row, quit football for the rest of her life.
No.
And I was thrown to her the whole time. And I was like, yeah,
no way,
I'm gonna be a QB. But I played second string QB, receiver, and then, I've played D end and tight end before and corner. So I played all around.
Yeah, okay.
But,
well, dude, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Dude.
So glad that you made it happen. And we're just gonna get right into it because you got school tomorrow, dude. We gotta get you out of here.
I gotta get ready for school.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Dang, dude.
So you're 17. When you turn 18 next year or
January? Yeah, so next year.
Okay,
start next year.
January. You got college plans, real quick?
Yes, sir. SAGU. We're gonna go straight to SAGU.
Dude, that's
I don't want to do a gap year. I think.
Don't do a gap year.
I think that's.
Dude. You don't have to.
I'm going straight there.
It's too easy not to go back.
That's what I'm saying. As soon as you do a gap year, you're just like, do I really have to go? I could work and make all this money, and then it's kind of like,
yeah.
So I'm just gonna go straight there.
Happens a lot.
Yeah, I know.
So I don't think you'll regret going straight there.
Mm-mm.
SAGU's cool, man. It's cool.
Yes, sir.
It's a really cool experience. What are you looking forward to most about college?
Man, dude, I've been thinking about college since sophomore year. I won't lie. Sophomore summer. Oh wait, no, freshman summer. Freshman summer. I've been thinking about SAGU ever since then. I think it's the freedom, having friends, learning what I actually want to learn in life.
Yeah.
I don't like that about high school. I want to learn majors that I'm actually gonna learn and actually use in my life. Like aquatic science. When am I gonna be talking about fish? I don't need to know that. When I'm learning psychology and biblical, all of this stuff, you're like, okay, yeah, I actually am motivated to go to class and learn this. And plus I'm paying for it too, so I have to.
Yes.
So it's one of those things. It's a whole different scheme, and I've been waiting for that since freshman summer.
Dude, speaking of a different scheme, what time do you usually get to school in the morning right now?
Right now, I get there at 8. Or no, 9. They started at 9.
Oh, dang.
No
Dude,
way.
time has been going back. I remember in Amarillo, it was 7. 7 o'clock was in Amarillo from elementary. And then when I first came down here, they were like, yeah, it's 8 o'clock. And I was like, it's I get to sleep in. Then they're like, it's 9 o'clock. I was like, I get to sleep in more?
Dude, 9 is crazy.
I know.
I was just going to say, because, dude, it's so hard to get up for an 8 a.m. class in college.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know dude, something happens where it's I was a morning person in high school. I was up early, not really a problem with it at all. I got to college and I was like, this is legitimately a challenge to make my 8 a.m. classes.
Dude, yeah, those 8 a.m. I feel like the 8 a.m.s are kind of rare though at SAGU.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's 9:05.
Really?
Something like that, yeah.
You'll have a good time. I think you'll really thrive at SAGU. Yeah. It's a cool place you'll meet a lot of people that are typically like-minded to you. That's dude.
Yeah.
I wish my school was full of people like you, and now there's a school kind of full of people like you.
Yeah. And I'm ready for it. And dude, obviously I know there's gonna be some aspect of it that's gonna kind of be the scary part,
Yeah.
But it's a test. And at the end of the day, I've been waiting for this test for so long because it's I can't wait to go in it, succeed in it, and all that. But one thing I've been struggling with recently is trying to plan ahead, because I think planning ahead, I've been reading the screw tapes with, Sam and Joey and all that. And one of the screw tape letters, it's hey, have your victim focus on the future. Because when those things don't happen in the future that he really wants, first of all, he's going to turn away. He's going to think that stuff's planned for him. So when it's not going his way, he's going to think everything's going wrong and he messed up. And it's just make your victim focus on the future so much that they don't live in the now and they live in the present and they focus on everything they're not doing, but they don't focus on what they're doing. And with that, it would break a man down. So that's from sophomore year to junior year to this year, it's been a hard thing to focus on. It's been hard.
Dang.
So what major are you thinking of going into? If you know.
You don't have to know. It's cool.
Yeah.
I think it was Bible theology. I think it was.
Really?
I wanted to do church leadership. I want to. I don't know. I had the same thing.
Dude,
I don't know.
If you want to know the word, right? If that's like what you're interested in, biblical theology all the way.
Yes, I know
all
that.
the
I know
way.
that was the
Yeah.
one class I've always wanted to take.
It
Yeah.
will really challenge, like mentally, it will really challenge you. But that's what higher education is supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's like literally going to the gym for your mind. It's supposed to
Mhm.
be something that you can be a little bit more interested in versus your general studies, and something that you can go to class, like you would go to the gym every day. And I mean, when I was doing my upper level religion and philosophy courses, I would walk out of class literally just like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Because it's feels like your brain's getting torn down and then built back up.
I
Yeah.
It's
can't wait.
not, but
I can't wait.
Yeah,
till I
but then
actually
sometimes
use
you walk
it.
out of class and you're like, gosh, that was crazy what we just talked
Yeah.
about. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's like some of the
Yeah.
most enlightening times too. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
I will say when I first went to SAGU, I went the pastoral leadership route. Like that was the major I chose, which is pretty similar to the church leadership major. And after 2 years, I just thought to myself, I was like, dang, I realized that a lot of the classes for that major are leadership classes. So I found myself kind of being taught or learning essentially the same things over and over. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, how many different ways can you teach me how to be a leader?
Yeah,
Right? So I was like, dude, if I'm like going to school for the Bible and like for ministry, right, whatever, I was like, I want to know what the heck I'm teaching. Like, I want to know even what I believe. So when I switched to biblical theology, dude, it was like night and day for my passion. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so much more passionate about this because the kind of like discussions you have, the knowledge you get from it is 100% worth it.
And just keep in mind, was it after your sophomore year you changed?
It was after, it wasn't until my junior year that I changed.
So the average college
Dang.
student changes
Yeah.
their major 7 times. So just keep that in mind. If you end up
seven.
yeah.
Holy
If you end up, Jamie, fact check that. I'm just kidding. If you feel like you need to change your major, then don't.
Yeah,
Like, don't feel bad
100%.
about it.
100%.
Yeah, dude, that's actually crazy. 7 times is crazy.
That
But-
is crazy, dude.
One thing I've been told about SAGU that I like a lot is the people who actually teach the class care about who they're teaching
Yeah.
to, and that's different from high schools because
Oh yeah, dude.
they actually want to pour into you more than it is like,
Mhm.
hey, get your stuff done. Like they want to help you, and like even if you're not taking that class, you could probably still go get coffee with them, and they would still treat you the same. And I was like, dude, that's crazy to me. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that's what makes me really want to go.
And most of them have real world experience in the field they're teaching in. So not only are they educated in masters, PhDs, whatever, they've typically either been pastors, like
Yeah.
they've owned their own psychology business.
Missionaries.
They've been
all those-
missionaries
yeah.
overseas. They've been businessmen. And so you get to learn from people that have actually done it. They're speaking from real life experience, which I respect
Yeah,
like so much more.
yeah, for
So
sure.
I'm
dude.
excited for you, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
pumped for that, dude.
I can't wait, bro. I'm pumped.
So, okay, so for the people who are listening and they have no idea who Thomas is, can you
Yes,
just
sir.
kind of wind back the clock a little bit? Take us back to little
Man.
Tommy walking around.
Lil
and
Tom
where you
Tom.
grew up. Yeah, yeah.
like,
what was your life
basically how you
like?
ended up to where you are today?
Yeah. So I grew up in Amarillo, Texas. I grew up with just me, my mom, and my 3 brothers at the time. My father was never really there. And growing up, I had a lot of like health issues. I had 3 brain tumors growing up when I think I was 4, 6, and 8. I could be wrong. But I remember I had 3 and it was 2 years apart. So it was really bad. And they were all in my cerebellum. So right in the back of my neck, that's my hand and eye coordination. I lost half of that. And the first time we did the surgery, they took what they thought was all of the tumor out and they had to go right back in because they missed a little bit. And like they came to my mom with the question. They were like, so he has a plate in right now. We're going to have to take it out. It's either he has a dent or we leave it in and we hope like he lives. And my mom was like, just give that man a dent. I was like, what? Mom? I was like, you just wanted me to get a dent? I was like, okay, I guess. I was like, yeah, to save my life, I'll get a dent. But I had 3 brain tumors with all of that. And that was a lot. And then, man, I grew up out of that. I had a lot of family issues with that stuff. And one of my brothers ran away. And that kind of led us to come towards here, losing a lot of family in that area. So we were like, okay,
Wow.
God called my mother down here, really, and that's what brought us down here. We come down here, and I'm a trouble child. Oh, this is a
Got
new
that
city,
dent.
new people, nobody know me. I was like, this is amazing. I'm about to just be Thomas. I was like, I don't care about, like, nobody knows anything.
Well, what age did you come? First of all, what was it like recovering from those tumors? Do you remember?
Dude, man. Mentally, I was fine. Mentally, I got to play games. Like, we were very poor growing up. So all we had was a Wii. At the hospital, they had the new PlayStation, the new Xbox, all of it. So when I went, I was like, I remember my mom told me I had my second tumor. And the first thing I said was, wait, I get to go play on the Xbox again? And my mom laughed. And dude, like, the one thing that really messed with me was knowing that we weren't financially stable. And most of that was because of me, because of my medical bills.
Dang.
And that sucked because I was like, growing up as a kid, first of all, a kid thinking that's a crazy thought. I was like, I don't even know how I processed that.
Self-awareness is wild.
And I grew up watching my family a lot because my family went through a lot, dude. They went through a lot, and I learned through their mistakes. And like with that, dude, I grew up, and I kind of sometimes put the blame towards myself for a lot of things that happened. But with that, I started to recover when I started to forgive certain things and then start to go, okay, these things happen for a certain reason. And then when I started to get into drums, I go, okay, so now this is sick because I technically should be paralyzed from the waist down, or not the waist down, the neck down. So I'm like, okay, the fact that I could play drums, that's crazy. I'm moving my whole body at a different time, at a different pace, keeping a rhythm, doing all these things. So I was like, okay, this is sick. And my mind slowly started to process that things are happening for a reason and that this isn't my fault. My mom helped me a lot. My mom is, I have to give all things to my mom. My mom she was in college. She had 2 jobs, raising 4 kids, had a 4.0 in college the whole time.
What?
Oh my
and
God.
She got a master's, like everything you could think of.
Oh my God.
Every degree you need to be a social worker. Like, she is the top. Like, I have a lot of respect for her. And, you know, seeing her, for her to be my mom, I was very thankful because it showed me what an adult looks like. And she helped me a lot with a lot of things that happened. And especially with my brother running away, that was the hardest, to be honest, because I watched him run away. Like, I was the last person he talked to. Before he ran away, he literally pranked me. And he like came out with his iPhone box. He was like, I didn't have a phone at the time. He goes, hey, Thomas, I got you this iPhone. I was like, oh, bet. So I took it and I opened it and there was nothing in there. And he started laughing, of course. He's like, ah, ha, ha. And then he walked out and he goes, all right, bro, I'll see you, bro. And I was like, where are you going? He's like, oh, I'm just leaving. I was like, oh, okay. And that was the day he turned 18. And then he just never came back.
Did he have a
Never
bag
saw
with
me.
him?
Huh?
Did he have a bag like when he said, or did he just
Dude,
like,
I'm not gonna lie, I was playing Fortnite. I swear I was playing, I was literally, this is when Playground Fortnite just dropped out. So I was literally playing it and I was just locked in. And I didn't know, I was so innocent.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
man, dude, all that happened.
So how
Wait,
old
what's
were
the
you
age
when that happened?
difference?
So dude, I think it was 11, like 10. And
Wow.
dude, when my brother left was when like our whole family was crumbling.
Yeah.
Like, my grandpa passed away and that was my only father figure like I ever had. Like, he was the one who stood up and he showed me what a man was. So when he passed away, that sucked because I was like, man, I had my father. He left when I had my first tumor. So I had to grow up with that. And then dang, my grandpa was gone. So I was like, man, that sucks. So I had to start looking up to my brothers. And I was like, okay, you know, I kind of have to become a man at this point. Like, I have to, you know, learn off these people's stuff. And with that, my brother had the same thing with his dad committing suicide. And so then he had that same loss at the same time. So it was both of us coping. And my mom had to continue to go to college, continue to work 2 jobs while supporting 4 kids with 2 of them who have no dad and 1 who just lost his grandpa and 1 who just lost his dad to suicide.
Golly, dude.
And man, it was hard, dude. It was hard.
That's about as much adversity as you could ever have. That's
Yeah.
crazy, man.
So,
And
and you haven't seen your brother since?
I
then,
haven't. My mom has, but I haven't.
or-
And he never liked me because I was the youngest. And it was kind of what it was. And I cheated in Legos a lot. Yeah, I cheated a lot, dude. I was a menace. He would be like, no, you're dead. And I'd be like, no, I'm not. And he would just get so angry. But no, I haven't seen him since. But ever since then, I would have to say, like, that, like, the forgiveness or how I feel about talking about it now, it doesn't feel like trauma. It doesn't feel like bad situations in my life or bad events. I'm actually like, it feels good to talk about because I feel like it's good character. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's part
I
of
think
your
it's
story.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good testimony. I like it.
Okay, so what age again were you when you moved here?
When I moved here, it was, I would have been 14. 14 or 13.
So
I
like
think
8th grade.
Yeah, 8th grade. 8th grade. It was the 8th grade last
Dang,
semester.
wait, so when you came to Freedom for that, I mean, like because that was the first
The
time I met
lock-in,
you,
yeah.
I think, was at the lock-in.
Yeah.
So you were like, you all had just moved down pretty much,
Yeah.
right?
So
Oh,
that
dang.
was like before a year. So it was still some months.
Wow.
Some months. And I mean, you saw me. I was just running around. I was a little
Yeah.
stinker. I was just running around, doing whatever,
Yeah.
picking fights and stuff. I was
Yeah.
just doing whatever. So yeah, I moved down here and that's when I really put the social out. I used to be very shy. I used to be a very shy kid. Just kept to myself, kept to my friend group, played games all the time.
Mhm.
So when I moved down here, I was like, okay, I got to change. Like, I can't be shy. I don't have no friends. Like, I have to go out and present myself or I'm just not going to have any friends. And I have this semester until I get to high school. So I need to make some friends at least. So I went there, went social, and that's where I kind of got my social skills, was just saying whatever, doing whatever, like getting rejected, just understanding what to say, what not to say, like all this
Yeah.
stuff. And then, you know, I think when I got saved was freshman year, and I went to the lock-in, and then I think we had Collide a month ago, like a month right after. And I was like, hey, I got to get baptized. Like, this stuff is real. And I was like, dude, my mom's not psycho. Like, my mom actually, like, this stuff is real
Mm.
and all of this. And I think that year is when I got baptized, and then I was saved. High school came around, you know,
Wait,
all
so,
the.
let's slow down a second. So
Yes, sir.
you said you said your mom's not psycho. So I assume what you're saying is that your mom was trying to raise you as a Christian.
Oh,
or was
yeah,
just like-
always.
okay,
I grew up on VeggieTales.
gotcha.
Everything you
Really?
could think of. I love VeggieTales.
Dang,
Man,
dude.
you don't understand.
Yeah, that's OG right
Yeah, VeggieTales was my thing. I had a Larry and Bob stuffed like toy, and I love
What?
those things. Yeah.
I think I had Bob and Larry shoes, but they were like
What?
mismatched sizes.
No, I'm so jealous of you, dude. You,
I gotta find some
you.
pictures.
Yeah, I remember going to Marshall's and going straight to the VeggieTales section every time, dude. That was my spot. I would sit there and just stare. But no, yeah, my mom she was very Christian. That's what got her through everything and that's what showed me what faith really was having all these things happen back to back to back. And you're like just so determined to raise these children and be the best you could possibly be and still have time for faith.
Yeah.
I make no time for faith when I have TikTok. She had everything and the power to say, I don't have time. I don't have time today.
Yeah.
But she still made time. And that was crazy to me. She would pray in the closet. She would have her closet. And that, I low-key might take that from her, because
Prayer
I saw the
closet?
most success out of her life in that. And she would read, and she's actually a very smart woman when it comes to like
Yeah.
biblical, and like
Yeah.
I'll always go up to her and she'll throw out some stuff. I'm like, dude, you're still shocked? I'm like, Mom, chill. Like, this isn't a Sunday service, chill. But no, she was always trying to raise me in the right way. And, you know, I was a rebel, obviously. And
So okay, so what happened? Like, you went to Collide, or you went to the lock-in, then to Collide. Walk us through like the decision point of pre-Save Thomas to post. Like, what was that moment like when you realized, oh, this is
Dude.
for real, and I need this?
so it was actually someone prayed over me. And I've never been prayed over before. I never prayed in my life. And I would always have these thoughts of, man, like, I know I'm doing wrong, but like, what even is doing right? And I would always have those thoughts. And I was at Collide, and everyone's jumping in the front. I'm like, look at these guys. Like, what are these guys doing? These guys jumping around, thinking this stuff is hype. Then I get pulled up in there. So I'm like, okay, I got to start jumping. So I start jumping and I start having fun. I'm like, oh, this is sick. And then worship hits, and I'm like, wow, this is lame. I was never a kid who liked worship or anything. So I went straight to the back. And I'm sitting there, I'm just chilling. Like, I'm just like one of those kids you see who just kind of walk around, kick their feet around, wait for it to be over. So I'm just waiting and waiting, doing whatever to pass the time by. And out of nowhere, I feel someone put their hand on my shoulder. And I turn around. I don't know this guy. Never seen this guy in my life. He goes, hey, can I pray for you? I was like, sure. I was like, I guess. I let the man pray over me, and he starts praying in all these words. And he was like, you're going to do big things, but you can't do big things if you don't dream to do big things. I was like, wow. I was like, that's actually like sick. Okay. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do big things. That's cool. I was like, okay, someone just told me I was gonna do big things. Then later on, the next day, Sam said, you'll know what you want to do when you start to cry when you think about it. That stuck with me for a while, because when I only thought about helping kids, and when I thought about faith, I cried. When I thought about the drums, I cried. When I thought about football, I cried. I knew what I was passionate about, what my body craved. So when when I finally cried during service, like during a worship service, I was like, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, why am I crying? I don't like to cry in front of people. I like to keep my emotions inside. I never like to share it. So when I started to do that with people I don't know around me, I'm not comfortable with anyone around me. I was like, bro, like this is something I can't explain. When I talked to my mom about it, she just smiled. She was like, just go in your room and just pray. And I was like, Mom, I don't know how to pray. I was like, what are you talking about? You're telling me to do something I don't know how to do. She was like, just shut your door. You have a lot of thoughts. Just go in there. Even just be silent. Just sit there. Just be silent. Don't get on your phone. Don't do nothing. I was like, okay. I did that. I stared out the window for like 30 minutes. Finally heard God. And he was like, and he said some stuff. And I was like, okay, I believe. I was like, I believe. And then ever since then, I mean, man, I was on fire and fire for so long. I think I was like on fire for like a year and a half. Dude, then when I got baptized, it was different. When I got baptized, I felt moral shift. Like my first, like it was crazy moral shift. I didn't want to do the things I did before. I felt changed, but something someone told me was, hey, you just got baptized, but be smart because you're gonna have your shield up, and it's good. You have your shield up now. You know that's the point. Like you're saved. You know you're focused on it, but keep your shield up. Don't get too cocky now, where you start to slowly put it down because. You know, we think the devil's not shooting sometimes. So we kind of go we kind of peek over to see. Yeah. He's constantly, he's always pre-firing, but we got to just keep it. We got to keep it there. So true. And it's bad, but that was a whole thing. And then I got baptized and I was saved. And then I went like all in to the church and all of this stuff. And then I got hurt. And then I blamed it on the church. I ran away from faith. And man, I just started to, you know, like kind of see what the other side of faith was. And I knew when I was saved, when I started to focus on the sin, because I knew let me reword that. I knew I was saved because when I started to mess up, I felt guilt about it. But before, when I messed up, I was just like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like I messed up. And I knew something was different when I was telling myself, like, you know, you shouldn't do this, but you're still doing it. Yeah. And, you know, I'd messed around for like a while and I just kept doing dumb stuff, partying, drinking, smoking, everything you could think of. Yeah. Things that I shouldn't have never been doing, messed my mindset up, everything. Messed my work ethic, my drive, everything. And it affected me in everything. Like literally, it just plummeted me. Then I get to the bottom of the barrel, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's that downward spiral.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta feel rock bottom, man. Dude, sometimes you gotta feel what it's like.
Man, it sucked. I hated it, man. I hated it.
I've been there, dude.
It's not fun.
I remember laying there just staring at my roof. I was like, man, how times changed. And I was like, man, a year from now, I was somewhere different. And I kept thinking about the past. And nothing changed until I stopped thinking about the past and I stopped caring about it. Got myself mentally right, physically right. Started to care, started to push. Got myself rebaptized. And then that was this year.
Oh, so you went and got rebaptized.
I got rebaptized this year because I felt as a mockery in a sense. And I was like, I was so on fire for God and I switched so quick. And I changed my morals so quick. Like I just changed who I was as a person. And I go, how am I gonna just do that and then say I'm Christian? And then go, yeah, I'm saved. I was baptized 2 years ago. Well, didn't I just see you at a party a month ago? Well, that was just my flesh. Like, no. And it took me a while. I talked to a lot of people about that. I thought maybe getting rebaptized was too much. Like I'm just doing it to feel good. And I didn't do it until it felt right. Like I felt called to do it. And when I did it, I remember after I was like, this time you got to understand, like you can't just continue to do this when you feel bad. It's like, this is the real mark. This is where stuff changes and you got to truly believe in it and strive for it. And that's kind of where we are now. Now that's where I'm in. Got baptized. It was this year. Got baptized this year. And
like early 2024?
Yeah, it was early 2024. And ever since then, man, I've been just trying to build and build and build on it. So that's who Thomas Sanders is.
That was an amazing background.
It's quite the journey.
That is quite the
journey.
journey.
For a 17-year-old.
Yeah. It was kind of, very, very unique, I guess. But
yeah. I think like people who get rebaptized, that's not like super uncommon. I know. I've seen that a lot where people, they kind of just want like a fresh start.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good move. It's a good way to just kind of reboot your software. Like, you know what? Like like I just don't like who I am right now. You know?
And you get to do it in front of your church community too. So it's like a recommitment to saying, I am saved and I'm gonna profess that publicly in front of my community of people. Mm-hmm. So they see me messing around again, they can hold me accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was the thing. Yeah.
So my question is, what was it that, like, you're on fire, right? You're on fire the first time you got baptized, right? Everything. What was it, if you don't mind sharing, that kind of led you off that path? If you know.
A girl.
Yeah, there it is.
You know, it was rough. It was a rough one.
Hey, dude.
It happens.
We've all been there.
We've all been there, but it was a rough one.
Listen to Joey's podcast.
Man, I was astonished when I've like realized what it really was that pulled me away. And I sat there and I literally was like, man, how did I let that happen? I was like, man, dude. But it happened. And, you know, it was a rough one. I tried so hard to not go the opposite way and deal with the breakup the right way. Mm-hmm. And man, dude, I lost. I lost the battle so bad. And I think it was, now looking back at it, I'm glad I lost the battle, because I want to know how to help the people who are deal with the battle constantly without actually going through the battle. But with me saying that, I don't want it to sound like you have to go through things to know not to go through it or to learn through it. Yeah. Because I learned through everything my brothers and mother did. Like I tried learning everything I could through it, because I don't want to have to go and do hard drugs to realize that maybe being addicted to hard drugs is bad. Like,
Right.
You don't have to do that.
Right.
And I think I was just a kid learning, and it just kind of happened. But yeah.
Well, it's crazy that, like, to think about how just being with or dating one girl or breaking up with one girl can have such a dramatic shift in your life. It's crazy to think about that in marriage too. Yeah. It really frames how important a decision it is for the person that you're going to marry. So not to do it so flippantly, or just not think about, oh, it's just this girl that I really like right now. It's like, no, do our morals line up? Do our family values line up? Do our visions line up? Does our freaking faith line up? Are we really, am I missionary dating right now? Or is she helping me grow too? Like, that's huge, but sometimes it's hard to understand that and know that without going through the other side.
Why is that such a common trap that dudes fall into, where the missionary dating is a huge one, dude? You even, maybe not even missionary dating, but like, even if you're dating someone that, like, you both are saved, right? And you just have different views on certain things that are like kind of, I don't know, big differences, but you just kind of think, oh, we'll get past that. But then most times, like often more than not, and you never get past it, dude. And it just freaking breaks people.
For me, it was comfortability. And plus, I thought I was just strong enough to change someone. I was like, man, I got this. I was like, I changed myself. I can change these people. I was like, I got this. And I was like, I remember right after the girl who I broke up with, and I went downhill, I got with this other girl. And man, I was like, yeah, I got this. You know, I'll change her. This is cool. This is comfortable. Like, I don't have to go through the breakup no more. I'm fine.
Just classic rebound.
Just pushed my pain away and just delayed it for a while. And going through that, you can't change no one. I'm not God, nor Jesus. Yeah. And I'll never try doing that again, because that was a bad decision. And I would have to say, like, I had to learn through it. Man. It was a canon event. And you know what? I'm glad to say I learned it, and I never tried it again. That's one thing. That's a trap I see people go into.
Dude, some people don't learn, bro.
They don't. Yeah. And it's a mousetrap, and it's a continuous cycle. And it's insanity, dude.
Or a hamster wheel, you mean? Like, it's a...
Basically, I'm just running, and it's just like... And it happened recently, too. I like 2 months ago, I went through a breakup, and it was the same thing, and it was the same problem. It was like, are you going to get pushed away again, or are you going to get pulled in? And I was like, God, please put me in. I was like, God,
Dude.
put me in.
Those are your two options. Like,
Yes.
am I gonna run from my pain and just prolong this whole thing and hurt more people? Because you end up hurting other people because you're hurting.
Yes, bro.
Or am I gonna run to the one person that can take this pain away?
And I think that thing is hurting other people. We say people and we think of one person. We hurt a lot of people in the spite of that without even thinking of it. We go, hey, look, this is my pain. I'll suffer with this alone and I'll just have fun at the same time. Well, when you do that, you hurt a lot of people. And
Yeah.
it's not like it's without intent, but it's, you do it and you're just like, wow, like I regret this. I wish I never did this. And then some people, like we say, they just continue to do it. And it's just, man. And I hate that. I hate people who, it's not like I hate them, but it sucks to see. It hurts me when I see that. When I see people go through like a stage where they just don't learn. Like you're telling them, they just don't learn and they continue to do it. And you're just like, man, like, okay, man, I'll let you do it. Like I can't convince you. Like this isn't my jurisdiction. Like you're living your own life. Make your own decisions. You're about to be 18. You're about to be an adult. You got to make your own decisions.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not going to be the one to tell you like, hey, go do that.
Yeah.
But
So what do you think? Because dude, I mean, I've been in a similar situation fairly recently. It's been like a year or two now.
Yeah.
Since I was in it bad like that.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm sure you could probably touch on this too, being a married individual.
Being a married man.
What is the goal then, right? Because now it's like, personally for me, I get in this attitude where it's like, dude, I don't want anything. Like it's just, I'm just on my track, dude, and I'm not trying to get taken off. But I'd like to have a girl someday, right? It's like you want that, but you don't want to become that person again. That was me. Like I went through a downward spiral where like I just started eating unhealthy. I started like it really does affect your whole life, dude.
Yes, dude.
So
man.
Yeah, I guess.
Dude, I had the same mentality, man.
Yeah.
Until I became a horny jit, I was just like, man, I want a girl. And then I'd be like, no, I don't. And I'd be like, no, but I want one. And it was such a hard battle. And I was tested, dude. Like, it was hard. It was hard to keep denying and just be like, no, God, okay, yeah, you're right. This isn't the right time.
Yeah.
I'm not healed yet. I have to like remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was like, I want a girl in the future, I think about it and, you know, I want a woman in the future. But right now, there's no women around me for me to be like, yes, like I'm going to do anything for you right now.
Yeah.
One thing I keep finding out, and it's not, when I say this, I have to word it right. Because every time I say this, it sounds bad. And I don't mean it in a bad way. But it's not girls in this generation. No, it's girls in this generation, not women in this generation. There's a difference. Because women in this generation normally respect themselves. You know, they have that respect for themselves. They want to keep striving. And I want to find a woman who will strive as hard as my mother.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's my goal. That's what I look in a woman. I go, okay, is this woman capable to go through what my mom went through? Would she mentally be able to do that? Because if I could find a girl like that, hey, I'm putting a ring right there. I'm getting on a knee to marry me. But one thing I figure out is in high school, it's hard to find.
Yeah,
it's hard to
very
find.
true, dude.
And especially with guys, when you look at the other way for girls to go to a guy, it's hard to find a guy who's really just
it's really
like
tough.
a hubby material. There's no wifey or a hubby material anywhere around you. So one thing I've been thinking about is, well, I'm young. There's no need for me to think about wanting a wife or wanting a girl at all.
Plenty of time, dude.
But I definitely want to know what I want in a wife. And man, girls, man, I have to stay away from them right now. Occasionally, I have to. Just knowing where I am and knowing my mental, like everything, knowing myself.
Yep.
I can't, dude. It's just a trap.
The greatest thing that helped me, like my dad told me, that helped me in this kind of like waiting period, which is so tough for me because I'm very ambitious. So patience is definitely something that I'm trying to have a virtue of.
Yeah.
But it was okay. It's like, okay, son, like imagine the greatest girl you could ever think of, right? Like for you, maybe it would be a woman who's like, she's very hardworking.
Yeah.
She values education. She wants to have a family, have kids. Like you look up to her in the same way that you kind of look up to your mom,
Yeah.
right? Maybe like, beautiful on the inside and on the outside. Like you want to be attracted to her, but you also want to enjoy spending time with her too. Maybe
Yeah.
funny, can banter a little bit. Probably works out, right? Like want to be in good physical health. Yeah. So you like, you kind of put all these things down on like let's just say like a letter or something.
Yeah.
And so I think it was like a story he told me, like this guy had asked his friend the same thing, right? Because his friend was like, I freaking want a wife. And so his friend wrote down all this stuff that he wanted in his dream girl, and his buddy took it, and like the next day came back to him and was like, okay, everything that you wrote down on this letter, just pretend that you won't find this person until you become this person. Because you are who you attract.
Yeah.
So he's like, how can you expect to find this woman of your dreams when you're not the man of her dreams? And I was like, oh my gosh. So then what it really did was shifted my mindset from hunting. Like now I'm not looking anymore for anyone, but I'm introspective on myself of like, now I'm going in the shop, right? Inside of me and being like, okay, this area of myself, I'm really weak in. Let's strengthen it. This area of myself, I'm really weak in. This part, I want to grow. I want to have this skill. I want to have that skill. I want to get closer to God. I want to develop this discipline. And then before you know it, dude, you look up because you've been so locked in. You look up and now the pool of prospects has gotten of a higher quality because now you've become higher quality.
Exactly.
So you're attracting those people. And of course, we're men of faith. And so you have a faith aspect is really, really big in that sense. And I will definitely caution you that when you go to SAGU, dude, it will be like the first time you're on campus, you're like,
Bro.
what is this? Oh my gosh.
It like I'm sure you've heard Ring by Spring. Dude, SAGU, it's like
It's worse than you
Ring
think.
by freaking next semester, dude.
Oh
It's-
no,
yeah.
I've heard the story.
Dude.
I've heard,
It's
bro.
tempting, right? Because like in your school right now, it may be one of the biggest hindrances to finding a girl is, well, she just doesn't really have that great of a relationship with God, right? Probably just not a lot of girls like that. When we get to SAGU, there's a larger majority that seem to have that. And so you're like, well, that's like my biggest box. Checked right off the bat.
But they don't have everything.
But then like you may not think about all these other things. And
Yeah.
the greatest advice that anyone ever gave to me, it was like a girl who was a junior, she was an RA, and she was like, Joseph, she's like, I'm just telling you, I would really advise you not to date anyone for your first year, at least your first semester. And I was like, why? She said, because you're in a new place. You don't really know anyone. Like, as in, you're not really friends with anybody. You haven't spent an adequate enough time because everyone can put on a face, right? For like 6 months, pretty easy to put on a face. You can hide some bad habits. If you're a sociopath, you can hide it a lot longer. But she's like, just be friends. Just develop relationships, because what a lot of times happens is guys and girls will find some person the freaking second week of school. They'll spend all of their time with that person, and they will end up breaking up, and they will have zero friends.
Yeah, dude.
Zero friends.
Mhm.
Because they spent all of their time with this one girl or this one guy. And so that might be one of the single greatest pieces of advice I ever got from a student at SACU, because that really saved me a lot. And it helps you too, because if you make that pact with yourself and with God, it gives you an excuse, right? Like if a girl comes up to you and is like, hey, like I want to, let's go hang out or whatever. You're like, I don't mind getting it. I don't mind hanging out as friends. I totally don't mind. But just know that I made a promise with myself, with God. I'm not dating for a semester or a year, whatever. I'm telling you, it will radically change your experience your freshman year. Radically.
When any girls come up to me, like my first semester, I'm just going to act so scared so they all leave me alone. I'm be like,
What? A girl?
Wait, a girl?
Nah, dude. What was the other one you said? Another piece of advice saying, don't ever date a girl. that wants to be a pastor's wife.
That's another piece of advice at SAGU.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's like a stereotype girl at SAGU that like her opening line to you is like, "What's your calling?"
No.
Yeah.
No.
'Cause
Is that Riz?
you think you're she's on the prowl.
No.
Okay?
See, that's
'Cause
what
she
I've heard,
wants
bruh.
to see if you're called to ministry, and she'd be like, "You want to be a youth pastor? You want to be a pastor?" Like, yeah, it's just what God's called my life. She's like, "I've been called to be a pastor's wife." And then, dude, from that point on, watch
See,
out.
Downhill from there.
Downhill.
dude.
when a girl says they've been called to you,
Red flag.
that
Red flag.
I don't like that. I don't like that. God sent. I know God sent you to me. What? Okay. All right.
Yeah, you got to be careful with most things.
It's hard.
that-
It's hard.
yeah,
It really is.
when people
Yeah.
say something like that.
One of the most I will say one of the most challenging things at SAGU is like, you want to get to know people, but you don't want it to be in a way that's like, at least I didn't want it to be in a way that was like, I'm just going to go on a bunch of dates with girls. I was
Yeah.
like, I just want
Yeah.
to be in a neutral environment where I can listen how they talk. I can observe, because you can tell a lot about someone by how they are with other people, because typically their guard's down. They're not on a date, they're trying to be their best self typically.
Yeah.
But if you're just hanging out casually, you'll have people drop their guard eventually, and you'll have moments where it's like, oh, that's who you truly are. You let it out a little bit, and it could either be really good or like really bad. And so one of the toughest things about SAGU is it's kind of hard to get that environment sometimes, especially kind of one-on-one or in a smaller group, because people will kind of tag you early on and be like, "Oh, I saw you walk into class with that girl. You guys gonna get engaged soon?" You're like, pump the brakes.
Yeah, dude.
Dog. Like we had this one class together. It's not that big a deal. So that part's kind of annoying, but
Yeah.
that can be
sister,
anywhere.
bruh. It's my sister.
It's my sister in Christ.
No. Dude, that's one thing. I just can't wait for college. And, the second floor, y'all, second floor experience, but
Dude, we hyped
Second-
up SAGU a lot, man.
second floor is coming back. Hey, what if I say that we might be able to set up a podcast on the second floor someday?
Dude, that'd be
That'd
so
be
much fun.
insane.
If I
That'd be
become an
so insane.
RA on the second floor, because I'm gonna become an RA. If I can become an RA on the second floor,
Dude,
I'll call y'all so quick.
Dude.
I'll bring y'all in that one room. Y'all can run it back with everybody. Get it
Freaking
back.
TV lounge, dude.
Dude.
That'd be nuts. That would actually be wild.
That'd be sick. That'd be funny. The
Dang.
bald eagle in the background. No.
I got some memories in that place, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
have
think
a
you'll
question-
enjoy it, dude.
I have a question for y'all now. The
Okay.
question
Okay.
I asked y'all earlier. If y'all could succeed in anything in life, no matter what, in any career path, anything, and knew you were going to succeed in it 100%, what would you choose to do? And it's only one thing.
It's a good question, man.
What would you choose to do?
It's a good question. I mean, I've thought about this a lot, because I think that we were talking a little bit like pre-show before this about how people get caught up in jobs that they hate the rest of their
Yeah.
life. And they're like working towards to finally live a life that they want, but their body's already gassed pretty much.
Yeah.
So Zach and I both have kind of resolved, like, how can we build our lives and our careers in a way that both, one, is what God's will is for our lives, but two, one that corresponds with the desires that he's given us and the gifts and talents, right? Because like he's given you gifts and talents for different things. And part of going to college is just, you kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
Figure out, what am I good at? What am I bad at? What do I like? What I don't like? And I mean, I'm just turned 24, but like it's still happening for me every day. I'm like, man, it's getting a little bit more clear each week, right? Each month, each year, it gets a little bit clearer. And like for me, I have a really big entrepreneurial spirit. I just love entrepreneurship so much. And I love like the coaching and the leadership aspect. I have like a vision for it that is just natural to me, but it's not natural to other people.
Yeah.
And that's how you know, right? Like if you do something that it feels so natural and other people are like, dude, that is crazy that you do that, or that is like, that's so hard for me. And you're like, what? That's easy.
Yeah.
That's a God-given gift, right? And so for me, I realized that I love people, I love community. I love like my close friends, love hanging out with people. and I love doing things that has like a greater mission than myself.
Yeah.
Like if I was in a job and I was like, I'm just gonna make a bunch of money, like for no purpose other than just to gratify myself,
Yeah.
I would be so empty, or status or whatever. It may be fun for a while, but after a while it'll be empty. So I knew that, but I was like, well, I need money to, as an entrepreneur, cash flow is really important for your business, right?
Yeah.
And so, really long story short, I want to be basically an entrepreneur, basically a business person that can use something like a podcast, or use something like a fencing company, or use something like a coffee shop or something as a way to bring people together, cultivate people, and help them achieve their goals, and do that in a Christ-like way that hopefully will grow the kingdom of God. And whatever money I make, whatever status I achieve, all to use it to help others, all to use it to glorify God. And if I did that every day, then I wouldn't feel like I was working a day in my life.
It's talking to y'all. It's talking to them.
That's me though. That's me though.
Yeah.
Some people, they want a career, they want these different things, and it's like it's just different for everyone. And it just takes so long to figure that. It can take so long to figure that out. Some people know from freaking 10.
And that's why I got lucky. I think that's why I try to help people. Like, I'm not trying to help them figure out what that is, but I'm trying to help them understand, like, hey, you can do bigger than just going to college and getting a business or a retail degree. Like, you don't have to do what
100%.
everyone else does, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Be unique, be yourself. So Zach?
Wait, so you're saying that you knew what you wanted to do by like a pretty young age, or?
Yeah, I was called into it at camp.
Okay.
At camp, I got called into it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It was sick.
Okay.
To ministry.
Huh?
To ministry.
You're called to ministry, right? Okay.
Ministry.
Nice.
Well, I don't think we'll get as eloquent of an answer from me as Joseph had. Truthfully,
Sometimes it's just easier to say what you like, the elements of what you like,
Yeah.
than to say it's this one thing.
For sure.
Because it can really take different forms.
yeah, very true. Yeah. So I think, this is a question I wrestle with. Literally every day, because I know that I have a lot of passions. There's a lot of things I'm passionate about. I'm finding, like, recently I have a pretty big passion for creating, like writing or content creation or whatever, right? Like all those things. I've always known that I have a really big passion for people, and I guess just not like, see if I can kind of describe this. Not like big groups of people or anything, but more just like intimate relationships, right? Like I have a passion for that. And I know I do that well. Like it's easy for me to connect with someone, usually like no matter the age, gender, or whatever. So that's something I love doing. I love scripture. Like I know that I've been told that I have, like, a gift, whatever, for reading scripture, understanding scripture. And I think a lot of that comes from literature, which kind of goes hand in hand with the whole creativity thing, whatever. But I love literature. I love a good story. Like there's just almost nothing better in the world than a good story, right? Yeah. Because the way it can move you, the way it can move people, I just love that. So, and then, dude, I like growing up, I feel like a lot of people see this side of me less now because it's just not what I do. But I grew up very much I'm gonna say like a rebel, but very I loved all of like the action sports. Adrenaline junkie. Yeah, I love doing. I've always been like wanting to be like a dirt bike rider or a race car driver or a skydiver or any of those like crazy jobs. So I have a passion for that too. So truthfully, it's like a mix of so many things, and so I feel like kind of like what Joseph said, as I've gone on in my life, God just gives me just like it's extremely frustrating because I want him to just give me the whole picture like right now, and it makes me mad. I'm like, God, what am I doing, right? But I think that's that's where trust comes in, right? So I have to trust and believe and have faith in him that he's going to reveal to me step by step. And it really is, ever since I've moved to Texas, dude, because I grew up in Florida. Ever since I moved to Texas, that's all my life I feel like has been. It's just every single day, just putting one foot in front of the other. Like, okay, God, I don't know where you're leading me, but I'm just going to take another step.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take another step. And sometimes it really sucks because I miss my family. I miss my close friends back home, right? I miss those things, and it hurts like
Sucks,
deeply.
dude.
Yeah. But yeah, it just comes down to trust. And ultimately, we talked about a couple episodes about this book Joseph's reading called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying.
Great book,
Ooh.
It was really good, dude. It was really good.
That's actually-
The conversation was really good. And I think ultimately that's my number one thing, is that when I am on my deathbed, right? When my time has come, I want to be able to say that first and foremost, I was committed to God, right? Like over above all else in anything in my life. So I feel like that's what I'm trying to do now. And obviously no one's perfect at doing that, but
Oh, yeah. It's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Zach is like very. You should, once you go to SAGU, you should like read some of his papers, because he's like an insane writer. He's very good at writing, and very good at like synthesizing scripture, like expositing it, basically like drawing out the meaning, and making it just like ridiculously simple. You just got a gift for that. Like he would go spend, like towards the end of the semester, he would go spend like days. When I mean days, I mean like I wouldn't see him for days. He would just go camp out in the library and just read and somehow get all that information together and throw it on a paper and get like 100 on a freaking giant essay. This is what he did.
That's
He's like, oh,
sick, dude.
there's Zach. Where you been, dude? Library.
I would disappear, dude. I'd go
Library.
off the grid.
There was one time that
Off the
he like
grid.
had pulled so many all-nighters, was drinking Nos and freaking at the library, that we had a dorm devo, which is like a substitute for chapel, but it's
Yeah.
at night typically in your dorm. And he was like sitting up against the wall and just like legit passed out. It's like as soon as we started, not like got there, sat down, was like, yeah, I'm pretty tired, and then just gone, just like throw the whole devo. And yeah, that's just,
I appreciate that, dude.
it's,
Appreciate
Hey.
that.
but it's tough.
Yeah.
Like this time is really tough because
Yeah.
you want the whole picture, right? Like
Mhm.
imagine,
Yes.
take David for example. Imagine as a shepherd, if God had said, hey David, by the way, you're going to be king of Israel. You're going to slay Goliath. You're going to cheat on your wife
Yeah.
with Bathsheba. That son's going to die. Then you're going to have Solomon. And by the way, Solomon's going to reach the greatest pinnacle of wealth and wisdom anyone could
Yeah.
ever do. And then he's going to lose it all.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if he just like, oh, by the way, and one of your sons, Absalom, is going to take the kingdom from you. And then you're going to have to, he's going to die. Like you're going to have to watch him die. Do you think he could handle that all at that moment as a 15-year-old shepherd? No. But he could handle keeping the sheep safe, right? Like he literally fought bears and lions, killed bears and lions with his bare hands. Like what? So he could do that. And then he got anointed to be king. And guess what? Went right back to shepherding. Got the anointing, went right back to shepherding. So maybe the case that you got this call from God, but you may go to SAGU for a little while and get your degree. And then who knows, you may not get a job in ministry right at first. You may be, what's the word when they're half in ministry and they're also working?
Bivocational.
Yeah, you may be bivocational and work someplace, and it may feel like, God, you put this great call in my life, but I just don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And I can tell you from like the other side of SAGU, being a young adult, like it can feel like that a lot. And so I always think back to the times reading about David and stuff like that, where those Bible stories give me a lot of encouragement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a good word.
I'm
Dude.
gonna turn this light off because
Yeah.
it's overheating.
So
It's
I
gonna give
have a
someone
seizure,
some
dude.
freaking epilepsy.
No, yeah. I had a talk today with my mom about that. Actually, she was like, Thomas, if you were told what you were going to do in life, you wouldn't do it. And I was like, yes, I would. What are you talking about? She was like, no, you wouldn't. You would be so, she was like, you would be so cocky and like your head, you would just be so full of it. And you would think that you're getting it done when you're not. She was like, why would God want to tell you what you're going to do for the rest of your life when he knows that if he does, you're not going to do what you're fulfilled to do? You're going to be like, oh, well, I can do this anytime I want. Let me just kick back and relax. Oh, I'm going to do this when I'm 35? Okay, well, until I'm 35, I'm just going to chill. No. You have to build up so when you're 35, you're just this alpha boss. So, like, if you're just going to sit there and just walk in, like, no, that's not. And it was my mom really broke it down to me. I was like, man, you humbled me again. She always finds a way to humble me. But it's a good humble. I like that kind of humbleness.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
And I think, especially thinking about which like we're gonna do in the future, I have to be so humble. Like it's bad. And I'm just like, no, I'm gonna do something big. I'm like, maybe I won't. It's fine. Be okay with not being able to do something big. But no, I just wanted to ask you that question.
I feel that too, though. I think most people have the desire inside to do something big, right? Whatever it is. And I can't remember what one of the quotes were, dude, of like one of the regrets, but it was something to do with, I wish I had the courage to be or like say something that I always wanted to. I don't know.
Yeah,
I could be butchering that.
No, you're exactly right. Yeah, I wish I would have had the courage to do what I wanted to do, and not falter to other people's opinions of what I should do.
Yeah. And I think that really struck a chord with me because when it talks about like courage, dude, that's such a. We've talked about this, how a lot of regret seems to come from fear.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times these big dreams that you have, it's scary sometimes to pursue that, because oftentimes a big dream like that requires a lot of sacrifice. So, but it's all about the process, dude. It's all about the journey.
No, yeah.
It's all about crossing that bridge, even though you don't know what's on the other side.
Exactly. Someone was asking me this not too long ago, and I was like, dang. They're like, so if you're a Christian and you have God in your life and he's the light, if I'm walking in the darkness with God being my light, how do I not know which direction to take? Like, how am I still like, he was explaining it in a metaphor where like, if I'm driving with just my lights on, that my lights suck, they're dim, and I want to turn my brights on, and my brights are God, and I barely can still see, why should I believe in him? And I was like, that's the thing. You got to kind of trust in it. You know, you might not fully see, like y'all are saying, like it's every day it's getting closer and closer and closer what I'm going to do. I'm like, you're not going to understand it at all. Me, with my dad leaving me as a kid, would I ever understand that? No, not until now. Until I was anointed of being the father to the fatherless, I was like, dang, yeah, I never would have thought that being the reason why. So, you know, with everything, like, you're not going to always understand anything. You're not going to always see it. All of that. God's a light, yes, but like I said, he's not going to show you it, because if he does, you're not going to want to go that direction.
Yeah.
You see what God offers, then you see what the world offers, and you see one's fun and one's not. Which one are humans normally going to take? The one that takes no work and the one that's fun.
Yeah.
Exactly what I brought up to you. The waking up and living in regret, the top 5 regrets. Like it's crazy to me. And I think it's a generational curse. I think that's exactly what it is. I think the generation before us did it. Now we're doing it. And are we going to reflect that to the next generation? Or are we going to stop it now? We have a choice to, but are we going to do it? I don't know. I can do my part, but are we all going to do our part?
Yeah.
That's my thing.
So I wanted to ask you about this, and you don't have to talk about this if you want to, but I'm really curious as to like the last like few months of your development or thinking on the church. Like, you don't have to name any names, but I know that you've kind of been developing some ideas around community, around what the church is as an organization or as a body. And so I'm just curious to hear like what's been your experience throughout all of that, because you mentioned like, you know, when you get hurt by a girl, you get hurt by church, like you can make a decision of, am I going to just stop going, or am I going to stop seeing this girl, or am I going to like go off the deep end, or am I going to go to God or whatever? And so Again, like we don't have to, but I'm just really curious, like how that's been for you.
Man, it's been hard. It's been hard, dude. It was hard. And getting hurt by something that normally shouldn't hurt you was weird. And it happened recently too. But I talked to my mother and a lot of other biblical people about it. And, you know, I think it was, for me now, it's acting like everything's okay, like putting a play face on and just being like, hey guys, you know, welcome back. Welcome back, guys. How you guys doing? You know, all this stuff. And not being so real up, like straight up.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you know, sometimes it's nice to have, you know, a little chit chatter and be funny. You know, sometimes we need that as people.
For sure.
But constantly being fed like that, I feel like I'm in a zoo. I feel like I'm just in a zoo and I'm just like, okay, it's the same thing every day. People are just walking and looking at me. People are walking and looking at me, nothing different. So I just feel like it's the same thing. Nothing's changing. I'm just like, this can't just be it. Everything's not fine.
Mm-hmm.
With me, everything's not fine in the world. Everything's not fine in the organization of what a church is. Everything's not fine in the community. Like, what's going on? Why are we not trying to like talk about this as a family?
Yeah.
You know, it's like having a friend and you mess up something and you're just going to let it sit and linger and just you're going to not talk about it. And then you're just going to resent him.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that. And I started to feel that towards the church. I started to feel these problems and it's just sitting there, just afloat. And I would sit there and I just stare at them and I'd be like, what's going on? Like, why are we not adjusting this? Why are we just going to let this float here? We're not going to do anything about it. And I would get angry.
Yeah.
Like, I would get angry because I'm so passionate. Because when I first came there, when I first came to the lock-in, I was broken. I was broken as a kid.
Yeah.
All this stuff that I went through as a kid, all this stuff I said in the beginning, I never fully dealt with it. I never cried. I never cried when my dad left. I never cried when my grandpa died. I never cried when my brother left.
Wow.
When my stepdad committed suicide. I never cried during all of that. Because I thought, men don't cry. Truly, I thought that's what it was. I thought that's what it was. So I never did it. So in a time where I come to a church and I finally start to cry, and it means so much to me, and the community that I used to be was amazing. Now things change.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
For sure.
And I had it, and that was something I struggled with a lot. And I can get onto that later, but
Yeah.
understanding the change and all of that, it was like what I've seen it be and all of this stuff. I was like, man, like this saved me as a person. Like this brought me into something and made me someone who I can never expect. Like God used this community in a way that I can never explain. And I want him to do that again.
Yeah.
And it sucked.
So you're saying that like you feel like you have to be kind of fake sometimes to keep up like a kind of a rah-rah type thing, or
a rah-rah. I feel like sometimes I do have to be fake. I don't like that. Sometimes I feel like I can't talk about what's actually going on in life to people at church. Sometimes I come there and the people I've known for years, I feel like I can't just tell them straight up. Like when I was going through everything,
yeah,
when I was partying and smoking, I can't go to them and be like, yeah, dude, I'm actually high right now. I'm struggling with marijuana.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. I didn't feel comfortable enough. And I know kids who came before who were the same.
Yeah.
And, you know, as someone who did that, I was like, okay, how can we figure this stuff out?
Yeah.
And as what's going on in church in general that I'm seeing a lot.
What are you seeing?
Is people being hurt and not feeling comfortable enough to say something. And then that leads them to resent that. And it's all because of how they feel at themselves. And I read about it in the Screw Tapes. It's make them feel alone, make them feel like they have no one to go to. So they put themselves in a corner where they shouldn't be, but they put themselves in a corner and they push everyone out. So then they're alone and they are what they think. And that's how I started to believe it. But then I was like, why are we feeling like this in the church? You know, like, why am I being attacked in the church so hard? And I was like, okay, maybe there's like a good reason. Maybe because this is really good. And to that, I can't still explain. I still don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. And I know, I see a lot of good in churches. I really do. But I also see the business side of churches and I see what they are doing and the tithes and all the stuff that's just, it kind of gives you like, what is this? Like, it kind of gives you that foggy mind of, okay, this doesn't sit right with me. And those are the stuff that I kind of pick out. And I'm just like, okay, what is this? Let me pick on that. And I think church right now, I think there's always bad in things. I think there's always good in things.
For sure.
100%, yeah.
So
Well
I don't think it's bad, like it's terrible.
But you care, it seems like you care about the community.
I care about the community because I know what the community can do.
Yeah.
And the church is the community. That's why it's a difference from church and community. When normally, like when I'm talking about the church, I'm talking about the nonprofit and all of that stuff. And I think it's called the CO3 or all of that stuff.
Close.
Oh yeah, I was close, but hey,
501,
all of that.
501, C3.
501, all of that stuff.
Yeah,
That's the church, and then the community is a different thing, and it's both of them together. And the community is what I care about the most. Like the church, like that's been what it's been for so long. You can't change that.
Sure.
We can't, but you can change a community.
Yeah.
And me myself, I can't change the community. Now, can I do certain things to try to lead a community a certain way? Yes. Now, can I pray? Yes. Can God physically change it? Yes.
Sure.
But if I try to go into a community and try to lead it into a certain way,
Yeah.
and now I'm getting like, hey, no, you shouldn't be doing this,
Yeah.
then I'm probably not going to stay in that community and keep trying.
Right.
Because then if I'm trying to share what God's given to me to a community that I feel is being called and I'm getting pushed away, or I'm being told, hey, don't do that. Stay a student. Hey, don't do this. Hey, don't do that. Then I can't use what God's giving me. And I don't want to feel like I'm stuck in a place or I'm forced to go to a place that I can't use my calling in a certain way. And it was hard for me to figure out because being 17, I was like, okay, is this my pride getting to me? Like, am I being told no in a certain way? And I'm just like, no, I'm right. No, I'm leaving. I'm going to go church hop. No.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a long time. Like, okay, I'm not going to go to a different church. Like, I don't want to church hop. I don't want to be that person. And I was like, okay, so like, what is this feeling that I'm feeling? Like, am I wrong? Is it my pride? So I went into a deep time of that. And like, I was trying to get better at humility and all of this stuff with it. And this
sure.
a whole category. And I mean, I'm still working on it, but that's one thing I've been working on. And it was at the end of it, I was like, man, like, you know, this sucks because I felt like I knew the answer the whole time, but I didn't want to believe the answer. I really didn't. And it was because I felt so, it felt so out of the blue where I was like, this can't be right. I was like, this can't be right.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same thing of like my relationship ending. I was like, no, this isn't God. This isn't God. And I kept, and all these moments where this stuff happened, I kept denying God. And I finally came to a night where I was like, God, why do I keep denying you? Like, why do I keep just saying it's not you? Like, why do I keep refusing it's not you? He was like, because you're denying it because you're comfortable in it. If you want to live in comfort, you can live in comfort, but that's not where I want you to be. I was like, okay. I was like, fine. I was like, okay, fine. I want to live in comfort. And I think there's a lot that needs to be changed in certain communities. I definitely believe that. I think the amount of people we attract to a church and to a community does not matter. I think it's the amount of people who strive in that community that matters. I think that's one thing that gets pushed around a lot. I think focusing on social media when it comes to churches, like they kind of try to focus on it a lot. I think that's bad. I think it takes a lot of time away from things that you should be doing. I think having young leaders is a bad thing. I think a lot of things. It's a hard thing to think about, but at the end of the day, I know that it will get better over time because humans develop and we become better over time. And I think we have the capability to make it to what it's not going to be perfect, but I think we have an ability to make it what it should be.
Wow.
Dude.
You just threw a lot out there.
Yeah.
It
I'm
was
so sorry, bro.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
I just want to point out one thing. Like you said that, you know, like if I came to church and I was high, like I didn't feel like I could say, hey, dude, I'm like really struggling right now with this.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say, would you agree with that you felt like you almost had to get over your sin or like get out of it before you could come back?
Yeah, that didn't feel right. Yeah, I felt exactly like that. You know?
Like you couldn't just be like, dude, like right now I just don't feel good about myself. Like, could you please help me?
Yeah, like I felt like I had to try to, like let's say I had a nicotine addiction. I was vaping 24/7. I couldn't hit that vape that day if I wanted to get prayed for. That's how I felt. I felt like I had to be perfect to feel loved. And I was like, that is not what a church is. I was like, church is not for the broken. Why do I keep feeling like this? Like, what's going on?
Wow.
You know, stuff like that. And it's hard, bro, especially as a kid. I don't think kids should be thinking like that when it comes to church. I think they should still not be innocent in a way, but still be pushed up. And
yeah.
I don't know. For me to I thought it was weird to think like that out of nowhere. When all that stuff hit me and slapped me in the face, I was like, whoa. Just like looking at behind the scenes and just being so shocked. And I was just like, man.
Dude, first of all, I'm like extremely impressed
Same.
by not only your level of understanding and all this stuff, but even just your attitude, the way that you felt all these things, but you said it yourself, like you were trying to remain, you're trying to remain humble, right? Like you're trying to, you had to analyze, right, like yourself and ask, is this just my pride?
Yeah.
Is this just like my ego, whatever, just that's driving all these feelings? And to acknowledge also that the church does a lot of great things. The church does a lot of good things for people, and it's an amazing tool for Christians, right? But that whole time, I mean, you didn't. I'm very impressed. Like you addressed it from a humble heart, which I think which is what we've been accused of not doing, right? So I just think that it's so important to not, like you said, like you didn't attack anybody. You didn't go out and just point fingers at the church or anything. Like, but your feelings and everything that you just said, like, is valid. Like, you just can't discount those.
Right.
You can't just say, oh yeah, those are just feelings though. Especially when you're like the fifth person, I mean, within the last, I don't know, month alone that I've heard this from, right? So yeah, I mean, that's all I want to say is like, I'm just impressed, dude.
I mean, you asked me that same question a week ago. I probably wouldn't have been the person to start pointing and being angry.
Well, it's very easy to do.
Oh,
dude,
yes,
because
dude.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that passion, because this is something else I was told was passion is good. Passion can be used through anger.
Yeah.
But God never uses anger in a way to speak to somebody. And I noticed that when I talked about church, like when I talked about what was going wrong with church, I would get mad. Like I would naturally just start raising my voice.
You just get amped up.
Yes, dude, and I would get angry. And I was literally talking to my mom today about church, and I started getting mad. And my mom was like, "Thomas, you're yelling at me, like chill." And I was like, "I'm so sorry. I was so sorry." I was like, "Oh," but no, I mean, man, it's been a hard path to be humble, especially in this age of music that's played, all that stuff. Like I listen to it and I automatically think I'm him, and I'm like, okay, whoa. Like even saying that, it's bad because you're naturally putting in your brain like, I'm that guy. I'm the top G, I'm him, I'm that alpha, I'm all these things that we say, but it's those words that make you feel this way of, I can get whatever girl I want, I can do whatever I want, and nobody can say anything because I have so much money and all this stuff, and it makes you feel like you're just that guy.
Yeah. And
man, it's hard. It was hard. And especially in topics like this, to be confident and not sound conky, to be humble, but yet not like point certain people out. It's a hard thing to do, man. It's hard.
What you're learning to do, Thomas, is you're learning to hold tension.
Yeah, it's hard.
Which is, it's so much easier it would be so much easier for you to pick one side or the other, right? So for you to say, yeah, the church is entirely bad, I'm never going again. Or, yeah, there's totally nothing wrong with it at all. Like, I'm just going to show up and be fake. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to just do that and be fine with it. Or it'd be easier for you to do that because it's one side or the other. What you're learning to do, and what we're trying to do too, is like hold the tension between, okay, like you mentioned, I've gotten a lot of great things out of the church. Oh my God, like the organized church. Oh my gosh, this is truly changed my life in the sense of it's given me a place to come do the lock-in, right? Like if you didn't go to that lock-in, who knows what happened, right? Like you got baptized in a building, right? Like those things are important. And they do help people. And two things can be true. And there are times where it's very difficult to be vulnerable with what you're going through right now because it would change the perception of how you're viewed, or maybe there's an environment there that's not really conducive to that level of raw vulnerability, right? And so it's like you're learning and you're kind of maturing in this, you have this passion side, right? Like you're literally in the prime of your youth of like peak testosterone, peak hormones, peak everything, dude, right? Like you're there, 17, 18, 19, 20, like you're there. And so it's like, how can you not get upset about something that you're passionate about, but how amazing is it that you're as passionate about church as you are and the community? Like God, I know God sees that, and it's like Peter, right? Peter was so ambitious, right? At times that God was like, get behind me, Satan. Like, that's not from you. I know you don't want me to die, but like, that's not from you. And so I just think that what you're doing is like, it's so important at this young age.
Got me freaking out right now.
No, the camera turned off, but the audio is still going. But yeah, what you're doing right now at a young age is not from you, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's from the Holy Spirit. Like this maturity that you're experiencing, it's called wisdom. You're speaking from beyond your years right now. Is the Holy Spirit literally working inside of you?
Yeah.
That is spiritual development.
And that's one thing I don't like about the church entirely, is sometimes we silence that. You know, sometimes there are young kids like me who have been through some things. Not saying they're the wisest of them all,
Sure,
but they are wise in some topics. And sometimes they act an age that they're not, in a good way. Sometimes they have a leadership that are on the same people who have the same age as them, and they use that in a good way.
Yeah.
But when you try to say, hey, act your age, it's kind of hard, because you're like, okay, yeah, I want to act my age, but you're telling me to act like these people. I don't want to act like these people.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I want to be myself, but yet do what God has called for me to do.
Yeah.
And that's not doing what these people do.
Yeah.
And, you know, also picking back off what you said, I feel like in churches, we don't have that vulnerability of people who walk in and go, yeah, you know, I struggle with taking a lot amount of pills. Like I've done a lot of stuff like that. You know, normally in testimonies, you hear it a lot. You hear a lot of testimonies when they talk about it. It's after, but no one likes to talk about it during. And I feel like if we can get past the point where we can talk about it during the fact, like we are in the pain and I'm going to church on a Sunday service and my grandma just died.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, my grandma died. I'm sad. That's better than just going in a month after. Yeah, my grandma died. I was going through a hard time. And sometimes we even say that phrase right there. I was going through a hard time while we're going through the hard time.
Yeah.
Just to talk about it, because we don't want to say it.
We use past tense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, we're humans. We do it. And I understand it. And also, I also understand it because, like I said, I don't like crying. So why would I like to share emotions? If I'm going to share sad emotions, is that going to lead me to cry? So why would I want to do that? And that's how the devil, I truly see it, is silenced me for so long. Was because my emotions has held me back. I've had a lot of emotions, and a good amount that could have been used for a lot of good things for sure before this. But understanding what he did for so long, I'm not going to let him do it no more. So with that, it's like, I shouldn't feel like I'm going to be judged.
Right.
But yeah, I shouldn't feel like I'm too cool enough to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't put it in the past tense. And that's the big three. And I feel like as people who go to church, as people who say they're Christian or whatever religion they are, no matter what church it is, no matter what faith you believe in, no matter what religion it is, you shouldn't have to act a certain way. You should still act. If something's going wrong, it's okay. It's okay to not be okay, you know?
Yeah.
Go there and seek for help. That's what they say church is for, correct? They say church is where you go when you're hurt. So why act fine when you're hurt? Like, that doesn't make sense. Why would you go to the therapist and lie to him and say that you're okay, and go to therapy and say, no, I'm good, or physical therapy, no, my knee's chilling, when it's not? Why would you do that? Like, that's just like, that doesn't make sense. So why would you do that at church? We don't think about it like that, though, because sometimes we don't hold it to the same accountability. We don't put it on the same level. And I when I put it up here, and I'm talking so high about it, and I see someone who talks about it like it's right down here, I'm like, what? Like that? Whoa, and it throws me off. And especially people who are in the church, it makes me sad, and it sucks. And I see what the church. It's not the church specifically. I see how some people behave and how some people blame the church.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just things that happen. Just like I could blame the church for what happened with me and that girl. Could I? Yeah, I could definitely be like, no, I hate the church and never gone back. But I didn't do that. I had to recognize, hey, dude, Thomas, this was you. Thomas, this is you. This is you and her. This is your drama. Why are you going to take this out on God?
Yeah.
This isn't anyone else's fault. This is your fault. And sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes bad things do happen in churches, and we have to recognize that. But sometimes they don't. But regardless, you have to go there and sometimes seek help. That's the place to seek help at. I think that's the best place to seek help at. But when I don't feel like that, why would I want to go there? You know? Why are you going to have 3 services with all these people if out of all those 3 services, no one comes up to you and goes, hey, I'm broken? No one feels comfortable enough to go, hey, I'm broken. I wouldn't want 3 services. I'd rather have 1 service with 1 person who could come up to me and be vulnerable with me than having 3 full of 50 with none of them coming up to me.
Yeah.
It's quality over quantity, regardless.
Okay.
Could not have said it better myself, dude.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So here's my question then.
Okay.
Do you think that, I'm just throwing this out there, do you think that the problem is then the individual?
I think it's
Or
both.
do you think the problem is the church? Or do you think it's a mix of both? What do you think?
Ooh, okay. So the community aspect, I think it's a lot of the people. I think it's people against people. Like we're supposed to be, you think about it, we're all brothers, sisters of Christ. So why are we going against each other? That isn't why. Like, yeah, brothers and sisters fight, but at the end of the day, they forgive each other, correct? So why are we not doing that? So I think, yes, the individuals can sometimes tear it down. When it comes to the nonprofit and all of that, I do think
Like the organization?
Yeah, I think when you get so stuck up in that, that can tear it down too. Honestly, I would say it's individuals. I say it's humans. I think humans have overall, we've seen it in any circumstances, take faith out. Humans sometimes destroy what's good. Sometimes we get too cocky. Sometimes we try to do too much.
Oh, yeah.
And we destroy what's beautiful. What if God built what a church should have been a while ago and we just kept trying to expand and expand and expand and then we ruined it? You know, like what if? And I don't want that to be a what if. I don't want that to be a possibility. You know, we're not perfect. And we have to understand we're not God. We're not going to be perfect. So obviously the church is never going to be perfect, but it is when we make it. So when the church is lacking, obviously we can't be pointing fingers at one person. We have to be pointing fingers at all of us. We all have to take accountability.
Yeah.
If we're in the church and the church isn't succeeding, that's probably on us. All of us together. Regardless. We have volunteers who go to the church who don't do it for money. Okay, that's amazing. We have people who work at the church. Okay. And then you have the higher ups in church, right? They're all human. None of them are robot. None of them are tech. So, I mean, like, why are you going to sit there and be like, no? Like, I don't know. I think it's all the individuals regardless. I think it's individuals who mess it up. But
I think I would agree. I think that ultimately it would be easy to sit back and say, hey, this, the church is doing all these things wrong. It's like, and ultimately, if you want change in anything, this goes all the way back to even within a dating relationship, right? If you want to attract the person that you want, you have to become that thing yourself.
Yeah.
So I do think that there is a significant amount of individual responsibility, like as far as if you want to blame anybody, right? Like you could start by blaming yourself, right? If you're not seeing the result you want in your faith, right? But yeah, it's interesting because I think that while the responsibility is on the individual, I don't think these church organization environments necessarily help all the time. Because the individuals become confused. So I think ultimately the responsibility is on the individual. That's 100%. Even people outside the faith, like we can get mad about someone leaving the faith, right? Because they were hurt or whatever. And even though with such an individual, things could have been done maybe that would have, helped that not happen. Ultimately, the responsibility is on the individual, right? Like at the end of the day, you make your own decisions, but it's just the difference of making the environment more conducive for people who are struggling and would allow them to feel comfortable sharing that, like, hey, dude, I'm dealing with this right now.
Yeah.
And they don't have to go there and put on a face to impress people or to look like a church all-star
Yeah.
Right.
And it says that in As a Man Thinketh, exactly what you're talking about. You know, often what we do, the consequences we have are on us. We are the reason of that. But often we try to blame it on other things. We try to make other things be the reason why things happen. You're not going to get over it, and you're not going to stop making the same mistakes until you realize you're the one making the mistakes.
Yeah.
And like you said, yeah, in churches, this is kind of what I was thinking about was often when I think about the church and when I think it's wrong, sometimes I think of the building, you know, of this building. Like sometimes I have resentment towards a building and the people who are in it
Yeah.
instead of having like resentment myself. And that's when like the humbleness and all that, like not resentment
Yes.
myself, but recognizing, okay, what am I doing everything that I can?
Yeah. It's like, what can I do?
Exactly.
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
Self-reflection.
am I doing
Yeah.
everything I can before I start complaining? If I'm going to go up to someone and be like, hey, something's wrong, am I truly doing everything I can? The first time I did that, I never did it again. The first time I did that and they hit me with the, okay, so what are you doing? I was like, okay, I'm wrong. Like, yeah, I knew immediately I was wrong in the situation. I was like, man, my ego got hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
I kind of went home and I was like, oh man. But at the end of the day, I came back. And when I was ready and when I knew I was doing everything I could, and then I tried, then I knew if I was right or wrong, you know? And stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we need to revise and edit, basically. I think we just need to look at what's going on in the church, see what's going really well. I think a lot of good stuff is happening in a lot of churches right now. I love it. I love it a lot. And I think we see what's working. We go, okay, that's good. Now what's slacking? Okay, let's work on that.
Yeah.
Still build on this and still recognize this and keep this at a steady pace so this doesn't go down while one side goes up. But just keep one side where it is, slowly have it up, and have this one slowly creep up on it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be some things that suck. That's fine. But when you get the community who really wants to build a church, when you have a community of people who go, no, I don't care about what this church is going to do in my life. I care about what this student's going to do for the people, or not the student. I'm going to care about what this church does for the people who walk in and encounter God for the first time. I went to a church, Timber Creek, I think it's called. It's the one Michael's working at right now. I went there, and the head pastor said something. I was like, man, like that needs to be said more. And he said, he like fixed himself real quick, but he says, he was like, it was something on the words of what was going on in his life. And he was kind of talking about him. And he was like, I can't wait to change y'all. And he was like, no. I can't wait to see Jesus change y'all. I can't wait to see Jesus have all these prophets in front of me. I can't wait to see all these disciples come in here and actually not be scared to put up their hands or scared to worship in their own way. You don't have to worship like everyone else, but worship in your own way. I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to come up here one day and just, know that God's moving no matter what in every single one of y'all's souls and know something that's changed. I was like, that's what I would love. I wouldn't want 3 services. I wouldn't want to have a bigger place because I have so much population. I would want to have people who are striving, people who are just so like passionate that they just, like when you have those meetings on a Sunday after service, all right, guys, so what do we think is going wrong? Hands fly out of nowhere. That's what I would want to see. I wouldn't want to see one hand fly. Oh, like if I really wanted to see like, one hand fly, let's go, I'm doing the right thing. But when I see all the hands fly, I know people are putting their word out there. People want to see something different. People are passionate. I bet. Let me hear the thoughts.
And on one thing you said too, I think it's really important to frame kind of our perspective of, we think that like, oh, the church's like organization is really struggling right now. It's like, well, if you look back at the New Testament, all of Paul's letters were corrective. Almost all of them were corrective letters.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, you guys are not doing this right. Like he would say, there's some things you're doing really well. And there's some things these other churches are doing really well too. And then here's some correction. And when I come to you, I'm going to try to physically come to you and meet you guys. I'm going to also speak in this way too. I'm going to help you. We're going to all come together. He addressed conflicts that were going on between people. And throughout the evolution of the church organization, right? Like Paul gave some structure to how the leader should be, right? But we never see a structure for any kind of program. We never see any kind of structure or program for how a service should be run.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a really important thing to just keep in mind, right? Because it's like you had the Catholic Church, and then you had the Protestants, and then the splits of all different kinds of those. And this has been a 2,000-year long process, and it's never going to end. We think that like, oh yeah, we'll help it in this way, or we'll do this, we'll do that. The truth is like God works everything out for the good of those who love him, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try.
Yes.
That doesn't mean we shouldn't try. But the only control we have really is to better ourselves, grow closer to God, disconnect ourselves from our flesh in a way that we lay that down before God. And then that's how disciples are made. Like, you're becoming a disciple right now. And eventually, right now and or eventually, you're going to be able to help disciple other people.
Yeah.
If you're not doing it already right now, which I'm sure you are. And so like, that is the point. There is no other point than that.
Mm.
And so it's like, we can bring it back down to a simple point of, like what you said, we're always going to be human. There's always going to be an imperfect system, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try.
And there's always going to be imperfect people. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. We're all going to be imperfect. I think that's one thing that stops a lot of us from doing what we want to do, stops a lot of us from saying what we want to say. Yeah, I've been sinning a lot. Do I have the right to say this to a church? Do I have the right to say this to somebody? Well, this is their job. They pray every day. Do I have the right to say that? Yes, you do. You're messing up. That's fine. Okay. You could still come to this place if you're messing up. You could still impact a place if you're messing up. That's fine. But and that's my thing, is I feel like a lot of people, and I've seen this with my own family, is they mess up and they lack confidence because of what, not, I call it stereotypical Christians, but I want to stop saying it because it sounds bad. But what some Christians try to act like they have a perfect life, and it just pushes them down farther. You know, they messed up so much and now they're trying to have a comeback. And these people who act like they're so perfect just make them not want to come back. They're just like, they look at it, and that's what I'm feeling right now. It's not like, oh, I don't want to come back, but like the feeling I have right now where I look at that foggy memory, they have all that. They have all that realization. They go, why would I want to go back to this? Why would I want to go to that? You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I think it's good to acknowledge, no matter where you are or what headspace you're in, like, you can still help out regardless. You can help no matter what. If you're imperfect or aren't imperfect. And also, I try to push it is you don't have to be at the altar to have an altar call. Sometimes God's going to call you to certain places at a certain time. That's fine. And what I've been realizing is, you know, it's nice to be at church. It's nice to be around people in a community of people who are bought into a religion that you're into. That's really good if you want to see growth in it. But you don't have to feel crappy if you don't go. That's what I push on my brother. He's not a very social guy. Now, should he be? Yes, he should, but he's not. But I tell him all the time, you don't have to go to the altar to have an altar call. You don't have to go to church to be Christian. You don't. Do they say you do? Yeah, but is that true? No. You can have your own church service at home and still feel the same way. And I told him, man, I was like, just because you haven't found a church yet doesn't mean you can't practice your religion. Yeah. You shouldn't just practice your religion when you're in church or when you're bought into church.
100%.
Very true.
Yeah. That's kind of what I think about church. That's kind of the whole gist of it, and said the best.
No, I appreciate you walking us through that, man. I think that you said some very interesting things and some stuff that I really, like, from the last time that I talked to you, you've come so far and you've developed, and your thoughts are developing, and critical thinking is developing, and it will only continue to do that if you continue to humble yourself and think and focus on it. I really appreciate you coming on, man. And I want to make sure we get you out. You got school tomorrow. So
no, yes, sir. Got to go and study.
I'm going to assume that we can, we already talked about this. We can plug your Instagram. We'll have your Instagram.
Oh, yeah, dude. Whatever you want.
Collaborate with you on some reels.
Of course, dude. Put my face up there. Yeah.
If you want to connect with Thomas, just DM him on Instagram. Follow him.
Yes,
and thanks for tuning in. And until next time, peace out.
Thanks for coming on, dude.
Sick, dude.
I want to talk to you. Not now. Later.